Hey, welcome to the Runaways podcast. My name is Cody. We are back. I hope everyone had a great holiday. Today I am joined with Dan and Ethan. And Ethan, I know you are still technically on your holiday. So how's that been going for you?
I am sore after 2 days of skiing out here in Boise, Idaho. It's not great skiing conditions. It's global warming and all that, so there's like no snow out here. But artificial snow is a thing, and it makes for decent skiing. So with a lot of falls after these 2 days, I'm just in bed trying to recuperate, but it's been fun.
Do you ski or snowboard, Ethan?
I ski, and I'm not
Okay, nice.
too terribly good at it. I'm from Louisiana, so. There is definitely
Yep.
no snow down there. But every other year, I would normally visit my cousins out here and try to do some skiing. So on again, off again, I remember how to ski, and luckily this was a year where I remembered what to do. So I did have fun.
No, I know those pains pretty well.
I have gone snowboarding exactly one time, and I was very good at going down the hill, and I was very bad at stopping. So stopping for me just ended up just like throwing myself off to the side in order to stop. So by the end of the day, I was just covered in ice because I had
Oh, yeah.
no way to stop my snowboard.
That's the dangerous part,
Okay.
honestly. Stopping is, yeah. If you run into someone else, sure, you've stopped, but you've probably also broken their leg, which happened to my uncle.
Yep.
You got to be careful.
Okay, today we do have a lot to talk about. We are in spoiler season. And so what we're going to start off here with is let's talk about, we have seen two new heroes so far since the last time that we met together. And we're going to start with probably the most, boring of the two. We're going to start with Olympia. And it says the first time each of your attacks wins a wager, create a gold token. And this is a new warrior hero. Very simple effect. One line of text. What do we think so far about this hero?
I mean, gold is pretty decent on its own, right? Like it's trade a card for a new card plus a resource. Like surely we're getting more gold payoffs this set. I refuse to believe there's not at least one additional one that we haven't seen yet. I don't know. Cash in is a good card when it costs 0. Draw 2 cards. It's pretty strong from what I hear.
Well, apparently the community
So-
seems to think so because cash in's already like $5 as rare.
Yep.
So this is a warrior who doesn't get double strike with their weapon. So we have to keep that in mind now. So
Yep.
you do have to run attack actions more than likely, unless we have, some new weapon that has the Dawn Blade effect and mixed with the other warrior put together. So more than likely you're running attacks. You're probably wagering those attacks already.
Well-
Of course, for the effect. So now you're getting the wager effect on top of the gold effect. So you're getting double wagers essentially, right?
If there's a lot of wager pump effects that hit weapons, though, we might just see Great Axe, no?
It's possible.
Because it's super inefficient to block that. That seems like a good wager target.
Could get a very slow build there, and then we have to do something with the gold then, because it doesn't.
Some kind of payoff combo kill
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like Knack Break It Back, maybe.
It'd be like blood on the hands, but for gold.
Yep.
Something along those lines.
Because we haven't seen a specialization for him, right?
Oh no, we totally did. That's the card that
Oh,
actually.
did we? What does it do? Sorry.
That's the card that actually makes this kind of exciting. The blue warrior attack action block up the ante
That's right.
with X cost, where you choose X plus 1. Target attack wagers an agility token. Target attack wagers a gold. Wagers a vigor, or target attack gets plus attack, where attack is the number of times it has been wagered. There's actually something interesting about how this is written, by the way. I don't know if I've ever seen it before in a card. It says choose X plus 1, so X is already used up in the text box, right? So when it comes to the plus, what you would normally say plus X attack, it actually says plus Y attack, where Y is the number of items or number of times it has wagered. So we've got X and Y to break it up in the text box there. I don't think
Oh,
I've seen that.
spicy.
That's
Okay.
strange.
So, I mean, I agree. I think if we have gold tokens, a payoff for them, besides
seen any
just
payoff,
using them,
right?
we have not seen any payoffs yet. We need a good or several good outlets for these gold tokens besides just cycling a card and floating a resource.
Yeah, like we have close to enough of like an engine and a game plan. We just need the payoff for how do we win the game after we It's like when we had Everfest and like we have all these make items, trade your items for coins. Now what?
But why?
Well,
But why?
but we never got the answer to that question.
Yep.
Maybe we get the answer to that question
here.
now.
I think we do. Surely we do. Please.
Well, if you look at
Maybe it's the runaway spoiler. Who knows?
Well, if you look at Kasai, right, we did see Raise an Army, which lets you destroy X gold to then create these Centauri Sellsword tokens, which is really like pushing the envelope as to how powerful gold really is as a payoff, right? You're summoning this ally all of a sudden. So that's at least one hero down where we see what gold translates towards, which is something unique. These allies that...
Yeah. And that's a huge payoff.
Oh, yeah. They don't have Phantasm. You're dealing with like these baby plasma pets all of a sudden. So if that's the ceiling potentially of what gold can turn into, then who knows really how these other heroes play into it. I'm not sure if summoning allies is going to be something we see like across the board for these heroes, but maybe it's all within this theme of we're fighting in an arena, pull up your buddies, or maybe it's just size straight because her whole backstory is built around like, she's doing whatever she can to raise money, then fund an army. So it could be tied to her. Maybe everyone gets a payoff similar to this, but yeah, Olympia, the man's got to do something with his gold. He definitely wins a lot.
Yeah. He's going to make gold. In my mind, like his specialization or like his payoff is going to be like you get plus 2 or 3 damage per gold you sacrifice. And he's just going to swing in for like 14 off of 2 cards or 3 cards or something.
Yeah. I will also say I don't typically, as of right now, as far as wagers go, I don't mind giving my opponent a gold if needed. While gold is good, if they have no payoff cards for it, you're just giving them like 1 resource for the most part, and they have to cycle a blue to even like make it worth it in a lot of cases. So, and then if they blocked, more than likely they're not using the gold that turn, and then you get the pressure back again. So like, as far as all the other tokens go for like wagering, I haven't been able to work out exactly is it worth taking that risk. But the gold one, on the surface at least, feels like it's kind of okay if they block and get a gold.
Yep. I think the mechanic's so sweet though. Like it allows them to print like Wounding Bowl, like above rate cards, where the drawback is if your opponent's willing to block, they get a benefit. But like, when is your opponent willing to block in this game?
Well,
we're going to find out.
We've seen that with Swing Big, where most of the time people just eat 8.
Yep.
Yep.
So, my favorite is when they block 2 cards and take 2. That's my favorite thing. When you're like Swing Big and they're like, I block with 2 cards. And you're like, okay, yeah, we'll live in this world.
I've won. That's the value game.
You're just not committed at that point. Like, come on.
Agreed.
Get your token.
I will note here about Olympia real quick. He's probably the easiest of all the heroes we've seen so far to actually generate the gold itself, right? So, and speaking earlier as to this payoff ceiling, I think after Rain it In, I don't think Olympia's payoff with gold can be that insane because he will generate it most easily out of everyone we've seen. So your idea, Dan, of like maybe the gold pumps.
I think it'll be like Moonshot, and this is like pure speculation and probably not correct at all, but I feel like it'll be like Moonshot. Like you get plus X or plus 2, plus 3, and if you reach 10 or so, it's overpower and wager something and keep the trend going. I don't know.
I could see it being maybe a little bit more interactive where cashing in gold negates some of your opponent's defenses for the turn, something like this, where it's almost like, you're tipping the scales in your favor. You're bribing, the armor.
Intimidate when you use gold? That'd be a hero ability though, or like equipment. That sounds like a merchant equipment.
I'm just imagining a world where you have like 5 or 6 golds and you go into your turn and you're just like,
just go.
Break all my golds, get all your cards and mana, and then you're just like, attack with my weapon, pump. Like,
I mean, yeah, if he's built like a guardian where like you're more blue slanted, like the payoff could just be having 6 gold, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Because you break enough gold, you go up actual cards.
And then you're just like, here's an attack for 15 or 18. I just used all my pumps.
And we've seen Final Act in Melody just saying, so it can get really scary if there's some payoff tied to the amount you've cycled or the amount in Melody's case specifically.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He feels like a showboaty kind of guy.
Cool. So
lots of speculation.
Lots of speculation for such a simple effect, which is it's great. It's great when you can print 1 sentence on the card and you're like, ooh, I like this. Okay. Next is the one that everyone's been excited about, which is Betsy. And whenever an attack, you control wagers. You may pay 2, if you do, the attack gets +1 and overpower. So we're bringing overpower from Bright Lights, so it's not just a Bright Lights ability anymore. What do we think about this Guardian so far?
I am so ecstatic to see her weapon in action. There's already been so much brewing around the Anothos like value combos you can put together, because like her ability, right, just as attack, not attack action card. So that's
which is a huge
obvious,
deal.
obvious synergy with some kind of weapon. Even with Anothos, which is clearly like not her signature giant tree stump or whatever she's building, there's already these really cute combos. So I just want to see the full picture. Betsy looks so exciting as a character that's like not just playing the weapon game like some of the other Guardians fall back on, where you're potentially just blocking 3 cards, pitching your weapon in to Anothos, and have this consistent 13 value turn. She can put so much of her, I would think, like buffs and even her hero ability onto her weapon that she might play a little bit differently. Maybe not throwing some attacks, but building up auras and then actually slamming like a weapon attack to follow up. That is very unique. We haven't seen that yet in Guardian, so that's what I'm hoping she kind of develops more fully into. I think it'd be a really, really interesting playstyle, and I'm all here for it. Someone's got to draw me the Guardian to see her.
It makes those setup plays way more flexible too. Like if you play an aura that can hit your weapon and pump it, like you can play off of 1 card and just swing for 4 plus the pump, or you can play a full hand and get in for like 16 overpower. It's pretty sweet.
And we are seeing that as well. Like the aura's bigger than big that's been spoiled. That one as well says next Guardian attack, not attack action. So kind of the theme.
And her ability costs 2, is that right?
Yes.
I think that's kind of nuts on board having, you need to wager, right? So you're going to have to play like a 0 for 3 or whatever, but she has on board 2 cards to make a Seismic Surge and swing a weapon for 7 overpower with Anothos, right? Like that's insane. But it's like, it seems like her pool is not going to synergize with Anothos, right? Because I think the spoilers we saw were like 2 cost or less. And
a lot of
pumps
the
are like
attacks
0 for
were
3s.
a lot of attacks were 3 or 4.
Okay.
The actual wager.
Yeah,
attacks.
the attacks will, yeah. But the pumps, like what the things that wager with your weapon are probably not going to cost 3.
Yeah.
So I agree. We got to see your weapon, and I'm excited to see it.
I think that +1 is really important. I think that's like
It's a
really
huge
strong.
deal.
Yeah, it's like you kind of get like a good dominate. Obviously, you don't have dominate if the deck, like if your opponent's running like unmovables and stuff, like then you basically, you know, it nullifies that. But most decks aren't running that. Obviously, in like mirrors and stuff, that would be relevant. But for the most part, like you get +1 and you potentially get, you know, like a dominate effect afterwards. I think that +1's like really, really good. It's like beyond good.
And you have $1 for a seismic or a 4-cost attack off 2 cards. Like it's a good start. I'm excited to see her pull.
Yep, and we've already seen some of the previous Guardian card pool, like Terra Sunder, Buckle, right? Those can also apply to weapons. Now you're looking at further pushing those breakpoints. It's cool stuff. It's cool stuff. I'm here for it.
I'm so happy we're not wagering to discard a card from hand.
Yet.
Yeah.
I hope we never are.
Please.
Discard is bad.
I mean,
Discarding
maybe
card
they'll
games
print
is
like an
bad.
Oldham specialization that wagers to discard a card, and we can have fun in LL with that. That's fine.
I know. I saw. I can't take credit for this, but they were hoping that maybe she comes out as a light hero eventually, so that her name could be Heaven's Betsy, which I think is great. That would be sweet. But now I'm excited for her. You know, it's like a new Guardian that's like, there's a good reason to play this over Bravo. Like, it's always been hard to be like, why would you play? You know, the Guardians have always been so solid that it's like, give us a good reason without just like invalidating the other hero. And then this was like a really good design space, I feel like, for them to make a new Guardian that still feels like a Guardian, still lives in that world, has a similar effect, but doesn't invalidate the previous Guardian either.
Yep, agreed. Crippling Crush also helps with that. But.
Yeah, of course. But no, I really do like the direction of these new heroes. I'm excited to see what the Brute one looks like. I mean, I'm assuming we're probably just going to get like a Wager Brute and then another Brute. But and also, I think I'm most excited currently to start brewing with Kasai as soon as we can. But she needs way more cards before you can even really take a look at her, because the yellow slot is so difficult in decks. And so trying to find a curve that makes playing enough yellows not punishing, I think that's going to be, you know, part of her deck building.
Just speaking of, we're still between Guardian Warrior. I've been looking through the card list here, and actually, of all the cards we've seen so far, there is one gold payoff card that we didn't mention, Double Down. The aura that lets you either pay 2 for it, next attack wager this turn gets +3 in overpower. You can actually destroy a gold instead of pay the cost for this kind of card. I totally missed that in looking at the card pool. So that sets a precedent, at least, for these pumps or potentially even attacks that will just let you pay, similar to cash in, like a gold up front rather than the cost itself. So that's one smidge, at least, of a bit of payoff.
Does it have go again?
Yes, it has go again.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's a nice loop for Olympia, right?
Yep.
Yep. That makes sense. It's like his Nimbleism, Minnoism, if he's like an aggro deck, right?
Yep. I agree.
But also it's going to hit and get a gold. That's pretty good. I'm just excited to see how Wager feels. Like, in my mind, it feels like super fair and like interesting every time you're wagering or you're getting wagered against. Just like more decisions I get to make, right? Like, do I want these tokens? Do I want you to have these tokens? Oh, it sounds so good.
I look forward to a tournament setting where you add an entire extra like 5 minutes to a turn cycle where you decide whether or not to wager. Potentially you decide whether or not what to wager. Then your opponent decides whether they want to commit to letting you have this wager or not by blocking, differently than they normally would. And then if the wager hit effect happens, then maybe it changes decisions again on your own turn. Whew. There might be some players that this really makes the clock quite an opponent for you.
It could also be a world where you're playing a mirror, like a Guardian mirror, not necessarily the same heroes, and you're just like, okay, we can't wager, or they'll just block and get the advantage. So now we're just gonna have to swing our weapons at each other all day. That's one of my fears for the opposite side is when you're playing it into like really defensive decks, and that's all I've been thinking about because I've been putting a lot of work into like Dash.io recently, and the entire thing around Dash.io is like almost every deck can block you out. So like you got to have a game plan for that, and it's like the same thing with like the wager heroes in my mind is where like you actually have to have a game plan for the other decks that have D-reacts that have the ability to block, because it's so advantageous for them to use a D-react or anything to block you because they get such a huge advantage that way. You're gonna have to make like a whole game plan, a secondary. Like the Guardian now has to play the game plan of what do I do against the decks that can block me efficiently. Like Azuri comes to mind as another one that's like might actually be playable into things that are trying to wager because she wants to block with 2 cards already.
Right.
For an example.
Right. And so far this use of the keyword overpower over dominate still like kind of shows the power of these original suite of cards like Sink Below, like Fate Foreseen. It's just such an easy inclusion for most decks, especially if we approach kind of a mid-range meta, then almost no deck is really taxed by putting these cards in. It's just about winning the value game turn cycle. Man, you add these cards to the deck, then all of a sudden Wager does feel, even backed by Overpower, feels much harder to really pull off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it also added a lot of value to Warrior in Limited, right? Like, I think historically Warrior was a little behind, like in Welcome to Wraith, the other two. Maybe not Brute, it was close, but like, in theory, they should be the reaction-heavy class, right? Which gets around Overpower.
Yep. Yeah, they're just base cards. Don't care about Overpower for the most part.
Yeah, like their commons and their draft should have like value in that way, like we saw with the block cards in Bright Lights.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be like hit or miss. My initial impression of like Wager is that like for some decks it's going to be an absolute like impossible thing for them to do, like we've always seen. If you have 2 blocks and stuff, like you're just not going to play that game. And then the other issue is going to be like if they are able to block it very efficiently, then you're just giving your opponent like +1 attack and go again, and things like that. That's pretty dangerous, especially when it's like profitable to be blocking.
Yeah, all the like really good decks at playing 2-card hands are gonna love seeing Wager in the format, and you need a dedicated sideboard, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be interesting to try and tackle that from the Guardian perspective, because you never really had to do that. You always had to do it from the aggro perspective.
Yep.
In the past.
What's interesting though is that all of these classes that are getting support are classes that don't really have to deal with the 2 costs or 2 blocks rather in their deck. So they might attack some of the that are still around, but all of these in their own little metagame.
Azalea too.
Azalea, sure. But all these in their own little metagame, especially as a lot of this was made draft experience, they don't have to run into problems. So if these are some of the strongest decks, then they kind of all answer the same problem with each other, that they can play like more mid-range game if they want to, and then like it's like the draft experience then brought over fully into where they all really do feel interactive with each other, and that's what I want to see. I don't want to see matchups that are a little too I just can't interact with effect. I don't want to see that. I want to block with my cards. I want to make good decisions. All these so far play into each other really well in that regard. Looking forward to it.
I say
think
that's
it's also pretty funny into like Kano, where like he totally can block them and get the tokens, but like what are you gonna do with them?
Nourishing emptiness, baby. I want to.
Yep, one time with Go again.
I'll say that's like one thing I really liked from Bright Light's like draft to CC is they did a really good job of like Dash IO plays the same in both formats. So like the Dash IO deck that you're playing in your draft is like doing the same things for the most part than what you're doing in CC. You're just doing it like better in CC. But that identity carried over like a 1-for-1 nearly. And we don't see that very often in the past. And I thought was like, ooh, this is nice. This feels good.
Yep.
It's like a good progression if you like start playing and you're just playing like a sealed or a limited pool. And then you like, oh, I like how this hero operates. You can easily translate that into the CC and it feels the same. You're getting the same experience.
Yep, I totally agree. I think we see that a lot with like cards and plays. Like as soon as you play Red Recharge at max, like, oh, this is amazing. And like surely that translates to CC, which it did. And I'm thinking back to like Belittle and Monarch. Like I played that in Chain. I was like, this is amazing. Like surely we should shove this in the deck. And I was convinced not to at the time, but we came back around.
Well, just think back to Icelander, right? Icelander, when it initially translated from draft to CC, was sans the attacks. Until Michael Hamilton went back and said, hold up, I really like the feeling of a red Findel's Fighting Spirit when I played draft Icelander. What if we just put that in the CC deck? And then holy moly, the play pattern carried through, and I mean that deck did what it did. He was onto something.
The first thing I thought of when I saw Betsy is I was like, ooh, you get like dominate, but you don't have to like do it before the ice comes in. And then I was like, wait, there's no ice. This doesn't matter anymore. That was my first thought, was like, oh, this can beat Icelander because you can dominate sans like after the attack instead of like, do you have a reaction to my dominate? And I was like, nah, it's not even relevant anymore. That's like always my first thought when I see new hero. Can this play around ice? And I don't have to do that anymore, which is pretty exciting.
It's so nice, man. I really think it ruined like every spoiler season, at least a little bit. It's like, this sounds so sweet, but if I get a frostbite, I just can't play the game. And that's gone. It's great. The game is saved.
And it's Nigon and LL too. One hypothermia, one CLF. My goodness.
Yep, ice is dead. Cool. Okay, let's go into our main topic of the evening here. Let's talk about, since we're getting to the end of the year, let's talk about some 2024 goals. I think for a lot of us, the team as a whole, the organization, everything has grown a lot in 2023. It was definitely a great year for kind of putting down, plans, putting those in action. I mean, even with like Savage Feats and everything that Ethan's been doing, I think 23 was like a really good year of just building things, like getting like the roots and getting the foundation put in place. But let's talk about some player goals you have, organizational goals, if you want to talk about that as well, that you guys have for 2024.
Dan, you start. I got to ruminate.
Sure. Okay, no, I'm ready to go. So like my focus is very much focused on exercise and diet and sleep. This is something I did not last year, the year before. I forget the timeline, but after PT Lil, I was like, wow, I'm like clearly able to top these events. I just need to win one more game at each event. So I like went really hard into like researching like optimal diet for someone who plays card games or like chess is what I mimicked. And actually like went really strict that year, and I felt like it paid off. I had those back-to-back nationals and worlds, top 2 runs. I just felt better, and like it was really effective. This year I kind of slacked. I came off the world's high, and then I knew I wasn't going to worlds this year, so I kind of prioritized like the fun and enjoying my time value at events over being super strict. Because like when I'm strict dieting, like I might skip dinners with the team, I might go to bed early, like that kind of thing. I won't even consider touching alcohol or like anything with sugar in it the whole weekend until my run's over. And if you're topping, it's the whole weekend, sadly, but also good. So I'm bringing back that focus. I'm currently mapping out like a pretty detailed plan. I've already started. My goal is just to do any amount of exercise every day. Even if it's just like stretching for 10 minutes, like that counts. So that's really what my focus is in terms of like goals, like winning, topping, whatever. I want to make one like splashy top 8. I don't care what it is, like nationals, pro tour calling, whatever. Just, I like topping, and competing in top 8's like a very special thing. But my goal is to get my health and fitness nutrition plan in check and play the best I can play. That's really it. A lot of goals for the organization outside of that, but we can kind of circle back on that one.
I started a little bit on a couple of my goals going into 2024. One of them so far being similarly with health. I got scared into the fact that there's going to be a hot spring excursion out in New Zealand. So like, got to shape up for that one. That kickstarted my fitness journey a little bit early, but that is something as well that basically since college I've slacked on and needed to get back into the rhythm of. And excuses aside, it really just came down to me not taking going. Like I even own like stationary bikes. So I've been trying to do better on that front, and I've never really taken the dieting aspect of it that seriously. I keep trying to think I can get away with it. I'm still young. I can eat whatever I want, and as the years go on, that's less and less true. But we'll start small. So my goal as of now has been to try to get in, the 10,000 steps a day, going back to basics. With some help from Matt Folks. I've also been going to the gym with some instruction from him, which has felt amazing to have that kind of support. So that's been more of a personal goal that I've already dipped into. But for Fab specifically, I really just want to earn a PTI because especially with my current life, sometimes streaming these bigger events, I don't really know when I get to play in the premier events. Maybe I'm doing coverage, so, I just won't play at like the next calling or the next approach or whatever it is, right? And if that's the case, then I'd rather just have a PTI at least that I can bank on, not one that I buy from someone because those are specifically transferred to just one event, but one that I can sit back on so that if I somehow missed a qualifying season because I've been busy with Battle Hardens, because I've been busy with whatever, I can say, okay, cool, I can still jump into the next event that I am free for and take Levia back out again, do whatever I want, right? As of now, I've missed earning a PTI at pretty much every event by like one bracket. Now I got normally like if the next year was top 32 or something gets PTI, then I was 64th. If it was top 16, then I was top 32. I've missed like every single time, just barely. So that is something I'm still hoping to do. And 2024 feels like a good year. Brute set coming out, right? Levia is already feeling great. So I think it's possible. Just depends once again on how many events I can actually play. Other than that,
It's happening this year. I have no doubt.
that's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Other than that, I would also like to just see Levia get her first win overall. It doesn't have to be me, but as a Fab
I'm
goal,
winning the cruise, man. I think I'm on Levia. We'll see. I'm still working on it, but I'm going to take down the cruise brawl on Levia Blitz, I think.
we got to hear more about this cruise later, Dan. I forgot that's happening.
Yeah.
But just overall, the community is still without a major win for Levia. And my God, people, she is actually pretty good. Especially now that the other top tier heroes are rotating out. I hope that other higher level players will pick her up, really commit the time, like we've even seen on some of the Runaways do, to just believe in her, bring her to the bigger events, and that's all it's really going to take for the best players to put up results like Fab really caters towards anyway. Better players tend to put up better results. If that better player is on Levia, then take home that win, And I think 2024 is the year where we'll really see more people take her out in stride and get maybe a Nationals win, a calling win. I'll even take a Battle Hardened win. That one hasn't happened yet either. But this is it. It's happening in 2024, I feel. And that pretty much sums it up. Personal, my Fab journey, and overall Fab hope. How about you?
Well, I think mine's pretty simple. I want to top 8 a tier 3, tier 4 event this year. I did not in this previous year. I did the year before that, so I would like to go back to doing that. And I think I feel like feel like it's time. I mean, I go to the events. I think, and for people on the team, they know this, but like if you're listening at home, kind of the mentality that at least I have when we go to these like calling plus level events is like you go to the event prepared, ready to play. You play as perfect as you possibly can, or as perfect as possible, and you just do that at every event. Eventually, you will top eight one of the events, but you have to have your perfect play line up with the luck that it does take in order to get there, whether that's matchmaking luck or just draw, the top 20 draw luck that you might have. And then you have some ability to influence that outside the perfect play by deck choice. And I think that was like probably a skill that I think I gained this year that helped me being more comfortable with certain deck choices going into larger events than I would normally have been comfortable with. The game's evolved, to the point where there isn't just like a chain that you can just take out and, take to the events. So you kind of have to weigh like what your actual matchup spread is and what you are targeting when you're going to larger events now. And so taking that skill, moving into here, continuing, really good play and going to every event, eventually you will once again end up topping. So that's kind of like the goal there. Also, I want to find a deck that I love playing again. I'm really hoping with the excess of heroes that we have coming out, the ton of heroes that we should have. I know 15 or something was like the number that was thrown around. I'm hoping to find a hero that I enjoy playing as much as I enjoyed playing Prism or Chain, for instance. And so I'd like to find something like that to kind of specialize in again. Obviously, we're moving out of a specialization meta because of how Living Legend works, but I would very much like to be able to do that. And those are kind of like my personal goals. Obviously I would like to be able to get more of our teammates to win more events. I mean, we had a pretty successful 2023, I think, but always the goal is with the team is to get as many people as we can at top eight, win as many of the major events as we can. I mean, I think that's like, our main goal, as a team. And Dan, if you want to talk about a little bit about some organizational goals that you might have.
Yeah, I think we still have to get those in order a little bit, but a couple that come to mind, like I think the easiest, I say easiest, it's not that easy, but I think the kind of like simplest goal is to get one of these podcasts out every single week for the whole year. I'm confident we can do it. And I'm excited to see like where we're at the end of next year in terms of like following and if people are still liking it. Like if you guys like the podcast, please let us know. If you want to see any changes or see us talk about some different stuff, please let us know too. We're open to feedback.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch our, first couple episodes again a year from now after we've been doing it for a year, have everything in place, see what the difference looks like between the two. Because obviously, it's a skill that we're currently working on, trying to gain.
100%, yep.
And the object is trying to just get as many, high level players as we can on one podcast every single week to talk about the game in hopefully a way that is, is unique to a lot of other podcasts, and provide, some value that way. I mean, that's like that's like the ultimate goal of the Discord, as that, a lot of people might not know, but like the idea behind the Discord that we ended up creating is that we have people ask us all the time to join the team. And unfortunately, we can only have so many people on the team. There's only like a certain number of people that we can support. There's lots of people we would like to have, but we have to, as of right now, limit it to the, like the 15 people that we have right now. However, I have a lot of people that I know who are good players who want to be a top level player. They want to take the game a little more seriously. They want to play at higher level events. However, unfortunately, they're all over the, United States or the world, and they don't have people in their local environment who are trying to take the game as seriously as they are. And so the ultimate idea behind the Discord is to find all of those people, give them an outlet where they can meet up with other people who are like-minded. They want to take the game more seriously. They want to take it to the next level. They want to compete in tier 4, tier 3 events. They just don't have a local community or a local scene or enough people locally to be able to do that, and give them an avenue where they can meet like-minded players, play high-quality games against those players, discuss decks, figure out what they want to bring to the next event, put in hey, I would like to test this matchup. Is anyone around who wants to test this matchup? Give them the ability to like function like a team, even though they don't have the local, equivalent. And that's like the base level of what we're trying to do with the Discord. And obviously there is another layer that, allows more access to the team. Because, we do like helping, we do like teaching people, we do like people who, want to get good at the game. That's like one of our passions, is to try and get people to, the level that they want to be at, as far as, we can, because we're still learning at the same time, right? But the next level then just gives more access to the team in general, more questions, more interactions, videos, training videos, things like that, as well. And that's kind of the ultimate goal of what the Discord is.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I'm most excited about for next year, just seeing like at the end of next year what that looks like, our community. Like, we just got it started this year, we just got our infrastructure, like we're ready to go start producing more content, more everything. Mm-hmm. If you're a part of our Discord community, like please give us feedback if there's things you're looking for that you're not getting currently, or if there's anything you think like will help the group as a whole get better. Like we're actively wanting to help you guys succeed, and nothing makes us happier than seeing the success of you guys and the rest of our teammates.
Yeah, I mean, I know we haven't had it open that long, but I remember I got pinged a question, hey, how do you build -io in, draft or sealed? And I just like, I was like, here you go. And I just laid out the exact formula that I use to build -io. And one of the people in the Discord took that and ended up, I think they went top 8 in the sealed portion of the Realm Rumble, after doing that. And they had used like basically the formula that I had laid out. And like, that's the type of things that, we want to be able to do for people who are trying to, take the game at a more competitive level. That's what I'm excited to see, the success stories at the end of the year. See, who's been able to really take advantage of that process.
Yeah, because like you said earlier, there's only so much you can do individually to win a tournament. Like I think for most of the team, the mentality is like, if we get the good luck for this event, like we're going to capitalize. Like you have to be in that position to capitalize. But once you're in that position, like if you don't get lucky, like just help other people capitalize if they get lucky, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's why I'll still always love our nationals run, because like you, me, and Lucas just spent a ton of time just digging into everything about Icelander, and to the point where we're just like, this one-off situation would happen. Hey, what do we do in this? And we would talk through it, and then Dan would of course run into that situation the next game and be able to handle it. But after all of that, we're just like, yeah, this is terrible into Lexi, but maybe we can win enough of them that it doesn't matter. And we just took it, and then both of you guys ended up topping. I mean, my CC was actually good that event, but Chain just failed me in the draft, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But I like that. I was like, okay, we took this. There was like a small group of us on the team working on it. It was
some of the best collaboration I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just like one person being like, this is how we do this. This is how you make this play. It was like, no, like I ran into this situation. Like, here's what I would do, but what do you think?
Yep. I mean, that
was like constant.
That list got super tuned as well, to exactly what we wanted it to be, where everyone was happy. And that doesn't normally happen, where you get a list where everyone is happy with all of the cards in it.
Yep.
So I thought, and that's kind of what we want to give the opportunity for people to be able to do. And host
collaboration is just so key for getting to there. Like you can do it on your own, but like it's not going to be as good.
Yep.
One piece that I've really enjoyed as well, from the rare, the majestic tiers, is the tournament reports, because me personally, I would always really just dig into whenever someone on a podcast or someone on a YouTube video would talk about their tournament reports at length, especially when they could pinpoint specifically like where something failed that they could fix for next time, those learning moments, right? Because you as the player are only going to experience your own tournament run, but if you're in an event with like 300 other people, there's 300 tournament runs you could try to learn from. And so to hear directly, sometimes even on the ground, if the teammates are really on top of it, about the tournament runs, especially when they articulate decision points that could have gone differently, which I think the team overall has been really good at, has been my favorite part of the engagement that's really come out of this. And something that I also had now taken upon myself to practice, write about my own tournaments, even like as a personal practice, to take a beat before writing about my tournament runs. Because I know if in the moment I'm just going to dump whatever the feels bad moment was, but to know that I need to check in with myself, go ahead, write this report later on, has really helped me, and I've enjoyed reading them all. So if you want to hear about all these top 8s that the Runaways are really reeling in these days, no meme. We're doing quite well. Then yeah,
No,
it's quite a
that
perk.
stuff is so real though for like improving at the game. Like doing the actual work of like writing down your findings and like thinking about why they played out the way they did. Like during testing, during tournaments, like all the time, even after the event, like writing non-gameplay related things that helped you do well that weekend. Like that stuff pays off in the end. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to advocate for like, take your testing more seriously if you want to perform better. And one thing I really liked last cycle was I was just testing Icelander because I'm like, I'm probably going to play this deck. So anytime I learned even like a silly lesson, like, hey, when you have a wounding blow, you should probably play that card and try to never block with it. Like that helps because you check back later and like, oh yeah, this is what I learned early on. And now you can apply it to the context of, I understand this deck better now. Do I still agree with myself earlier? That kind of thing.
Yep, I agree. I mean, it's important to have a good group of people who you can bounce ideas off of, collaborate on, and obviously it just speeds up your time in general. It's also much better to play games when you can do takebacks and walk through lines and talk about things than just grinding mindlessly on, Talishar, where it's
I
like
did so many
everyone's
takebacks
just
today in testing.
everyone's just trying to get through as many games as they possibly can, as fast as they possibly can. So if you take an extra, 2 minutes to make a decision, your Talishar opponent just like leaves. And you're just like, oh, wow. Okay.
Right. You'll never know when
Yeah,
you run into
that's
Peter
true.
Budensic, who's trying to fit in. What is he trying to do? Like 10,000 games in 2024?
I saw that too. I was like, man, I did this math before for myself, and I was
No.
like, maybe I could play 1,000 games in a year.
Oy.
No thanks. Okay. Unless anyone has any other big goals for 2024, we can jump over to our Discord questions.
I have a question to lead this section off.
Okay.
Primarily about the cruise that's coming up, Dan. I totally forgot this is happening. Can you enlighten us about what is actually the format you'll be playing, who you know that's going? Give us a brief.
Yes, we haven't seen additional details other than the first announcement, but basically this is a cruise on Royal Caribbean, Allure of the Sea. It's quite a nice ship from what I understand. It's just a 3-day, 4-night cruise, I think, from Orlando to the Bahamas. And the plan is to play Flesh and Blood on the cruise. Basically the first, 2 nights? Is that right? Yeah, the first 2 nights we'll just have like in the evening, there'll be open play and you can buy draft tickets in advance. So think like side events at a Battle Hardened, that kind of thing. Then the next day we are at our Bahamas destination for one single day. We spend all day there. Same thing at night, open play. But then on the full day heading back to Orlando, we will have a Blitz Brawl event, which I believe is a 2K. And it should have Realm invitations on the line as well. So it's a fun way to kind of hang out with the community. And if you like cruises, it sounds pretty awesome. And have a Blitz competitive event as well, which I actually enjoy a lot because CC's not pointless to test right now, but like we're getting a whole new set and there's no tournaments for like 2 months anyway. So it's like the perfect time for me to engage with the new format that I haven't checked out since Worlds a full year ago. So I've been I'm testing a lot with Naib right now, trying to lock in what deck we're playing. Levi's my current front runner. Dash might be a little bit better. Might just fatigue people with Yoji. I don't know. Still figuring that out, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And Levi is really good at swinging for 20 damage in a turn.
I'd just
I
say,
like that.
Be careful. The more you fatigue people out with Yoji, the more your opponents are likely to jump off the cruise ship out of frustration. So just be warned.
That is a lot of people's take, I feel like. Like, why are you going on a cruise to fatigue people? Like, that's not fun.
Yeah.
You should play Vincent or something, which I might.
Ooh.
It's not out of the question yet. He's one of the few I'm still considering.
Sweet.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Okay, our second Discord question then, from Fighting Walloon is, what deck would you personally play at Battle Hardened Cincinnati if you were going, and why would you pick it? And I believe this is before the next set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah,
is
it's the cruise
CC,
weekend.
correct? Yeah, okay.
2 weeks.
Yep, it's DC, and then it's coming up, January? I believe it's the first through weekend of January, the 6th and 7th.
Yep.
So very soon.
That's accurate. They actually posed this question in our Discord the other day because I really have no idea. Like I felt so lost. Currently, I would probably just sub Dash IE. That's just because I like the mech playstyle. And I think it's probably just better than Max, as much as I don't like to admit it.
Oh.
I mean, that is in a
I
good
don't
spot.
know. Like,
you're right.
Yeah,
Like Dash, it's just a solid deck that whatever you play against, you're going to have, be able to play out, be able to actually play the game.
Yeah, my take is in CC right now, there's 2 tiers, and it's like tournament playable and not tournament playable. And the not tournament playable tier is like 4 decks. So there's like 13 good tournament decks right now. Like, I don't know. I personally would probably, if I had to lock in right now, I'd lock in Dash IE. And if it doesn't work out, I'm playing Fi.
Yeah, I think Fi is a really good choice.
I might just lock in Fi. Like, if my first day or two of playing Dash IE doesn't go well, I think I would finally be subbing Fi, but I'm going on a cruise instead that weekend, so unlucky.
I would plug that if you're trying to follow the most recent tournament data, even though it wasn't broadcast anywhere, there were the 2 PTI events at DreamHack where Brody won both of them on Dromi. So the most recent tournament deck with results is Dromi back-to-back. Granted, this is Brody who's playing it, but Dromi is always that interesting piece where if people kind of forgot about needing to tech a deck to actually handle Dromi, or even this kind of assumption that maybe Dash is the safest pick, Dromi likes that field, right? So Dromi could still find her place there, but my answer would always be Levia. I said 2024, we want that big win. I don't think there's any reason why Cincinnati couldn't be the first big win for Levia. It's almost enough to incentivize me to go out and do it. It's a bit of a drive. I definitely won't be streaming that one, but there's a world where I just can't sleep and I go ahead, drive to Cincinnati and just play, and I would 1000% be on Levia.
Yeah,
I'm just not ready to play that deck yet.
I do agree that Levia is a good choice. I do
so,
like that deck. I think it needs a lot of reps. Like, you need a lot of reps to play it, optimally, because you're kind of playing against yourself in most matchups anyway. And how you actually manage that deck and don't let it manage you is pretty important. So I think that's a good choice. I think Katsu is also really, really good in this spot. I personally wouldn't bring Dromi. I personally wouldn't bring Bravo. I don't think these decks are just like, you can win, but more than likely you're not going to, is how I feel about those 2 decks. I'd bring Katsu because it eats up on Fi, it eats up on Dromi, and then in every other matchup, it's either pushing the tempo or it just needs 1 turn to win. Like, if your opponent ever makes a mistake, I'm like really big proponent of Katsu at battle hardened levels because it constantly asks your opponent the question of, can you properly block and guess what I'm trying to do here? And if the answer to that is no, if they slip up once, which is like a really good example of my calling matchup when I was playing Bravo, and I thought I had the game pretty wrapped up, and then I misblocked on 1 turn. I took a risky block that I kind of didn't need to take, but I took a risky block and he just pushed over it and then had a giant turn, and all of a sudden the game just completely swung into his favor. And like, that can happen to anyone, and you have to constantly guess the correct thing. And I was like, he's already used 2 of them. There's no way he held a 3-card hand and wants to pump over on me. And that's exactly what he was attempting to do.
And if you want to learn from that mistake, that was streamed by Savage Feats. You can go look it up.
That game 100%
Calling Dallas.
Calling Dallas. And so like, having a deck that constantly asks people questions of properly blocking, I think is very powerful. Especially at the battle hardened level, where it's usually a lot of local people and then like some people coming out trying to spike it. So I would very much be heavy on Katsu, and the reason I picked Katsu over Fi is just because Katsu beats Fi, and Fi has been pretty popular lately. And it's a little trickier than Fi is. It's less consistent, but it's more tricky. So I think those are like Levia. If you have the reps and you feel comfortable, 100% you can bring that, no problem. But if not, I would play Katsu personally.
I think Azalea looks good too.
And shout out to Naib, because Naib did get
kind of my Katsu issue. I don't like playing a deck that can't block with equipment.
Yeah, and you just gotta avoid all the Bravos and hope you can still win that matchup if they actually play properly.
Yeah, but if you're like a little unprepared or like you think not quite at this skill level as others, I would just slam Azalea and say like, hey, if my hands line up, like I'm just not ever losing a game.
True. there are some pretty busted things in an Azalea deck that plays 6-card hands with Tunic counter. With
I think it might be the
5
highest
pump.
power deck right now. It's just like not the most consistent, and you don't have a lot of options on the blocking side if that's what you need to do.
Cool. Good question there. Okay, the next question I thought was pretty interesting. It's from Ice Cream Lando, and it is, what is your routine like the day of a big event?
All right.
Ethan?
All right, sure. My routine before a big event, I have a ritual that like literally must be performed or I'm just going to be tilted all day. I need to hit a Starbucks. I need to get an iced Starbucks blonde vanilla latte large or venti, whatever they call it. I need to get a ham and Swiss croissant. If I do not start my day with those items in my rotted American capitalist brain that has just been fed to me, then I am just going to be upset. There's something in me just feels off the entire day if I don't satiate that need. So that's where it always starts. Always has to start there. And that really feeds me for the entire day. The rest of my day, I don't eat. I don't snack, like nothing. I'll drink water here and there. Every once in a while, Brody will hit me up with a bite of a sandwich. Sure, but that's incidental. Otherwise, that meal and that amount of coffee takes me through the entire tournament day. And there is something, for me personally at least, where I'm starting to get that little edge feeling of like, the hunger's almost hitting me. And it's like a reward if I can push through the entire day and then let myself be distracted by food and going out to eat with friends and yada yada. So it may not be the healthiest, and I'm sure Dan, who's looked into like chess studies as to how to perform best, will refute everything I just said. But for me personally, that's what I have to do, or I'm just like literally 15 degrees off like all day.
Yeah, I go through mine. I mean, the number one thing for these things is like, you have to do what works for you. That said, I'm actually in the process of like outlining my specific kind of, what do you call it? Like, plan for the day of events and even routine outside of events. But kind of my optimal routine is like, I wake up whenever before the event. I like to shower, in the morning when I'm playing tournaments. Usually I shower at night. This kind of helps me wake up a little bit. I think it's super important for myself to eat breakfast in the morning. This is like also the only full meal I plan to eat for the whole day. Ideally it's like some kind of eggs and greens, like no bread if I can help it. But I will eat bread if that's like the only option. Like I've found for me, it's super important to eat something substantial to start the day. And then between every single round, I'm having some kind of snack. I'm like really working in detail to have like this outlined and planned out, and I'm hoping to publish kind of this like optimal lifestyle for a card gamer to help min-max your performance. But between each round, I plan to snack, get water, go to the bathroom, and ideally not talk to anyone. That part's hard to hold true to, but it really does take a lot of energy out of me when I'm like talking about games between rounds. Maybe I'll just do some listening, but what I really had success with last year is like 5 to 10 minutes before the round timer ends, I'll kind of go and sit by myself, put on music, and just kind of like regroup, refocus, and get in the zone. That's really the routine. Once the day's over, if I'm live for top 8, I'm probably grabbing something quick to eat and going to bed. As soon as I'm out of top 8 or I've won the event, I'm going out and partying with the team. Whatever we're doing, I'm in. I'll get ice cream. I'll do some drinking, whatever the plan is.
I mean, mine's kind of similar. I mean, it's get up, it's always shower in the morning. I typically have like a small breakfast, preferably again, eggs or some protein or even like a protein bar or something. But typically I won't have carbs in the morning. And then I do a couple of things. I'll have something with caffeine in it in the morning, whether that's preferably not an energy drink, but preferably coffee. And then I typically bring an energy drink with me. I bring a Pepsi or a Coke or something. It's the only time that I have a soda that's not diet because I think the sugar's important. And then I have water with me for every round. And then I bring an Ensure with me for later because I'm not going to eat at all throughout any part of the day. Because typically when I eat, I get tired. And at these events every time, even if it's just like small stuff. I end up getting more tired. I just typically after like round 4 or 5, I just drink an Ensure, and that gives gives me all the calories and everything that I need, and I float by that every single time. And then I won't eat the whole day. I'll make sure I drink water between every round, which is something that I keep up on myself about. Go to the bathroom. I also don't really talk to a lot of people in between rounds. I typically just like walk around or go outside or something. But pretty simple. But
When I'm like really taking it serious, I prefer the thumbs up, thumbs down method for teammates. Yep. Like I want the information, but I don't want to use my voice or like my listening capabilities because it really does drain energy. Like it's a real thing.
Yep. No, I agree. I just think it's I know I can't eat during an event. Every time I just get,
you gotta do what works for you.
So tired. And I found
it's like caffeine too.
Yeah.
Like that works for a lot of people. I can't do caffeine. It upsets my stomach and it doesn't help me think any better.
It's like between every round, it's like, I'm like, okay, take a couple drinks of water, take a couple drinks of soda, and that's it. And then like move on to the next one. And then like next round, a little bit. And so by the end of the day, they're both empty. And you're just like, perfect.
Yeah. And there's studies that prove like even soda for this kind of thing can be beneficial if it works for you. Like that's a real thing.
Yeah. Sugar being helpful when you're actually using your brain. That's like, it's why it's the only time I actually have like a full sugar soda is at events.
Yeah. And again, sugar doesn't agree with me as well. So you got to figure out what works for you, but having a routine is probably the key. Just having one is very helpful.
I think I need to learn from what y'all said about not talking after a game, because I will rant to anyone who will listen. Normally about how awesome the game was, because most Levi games are that way. But also if it's a draft game or something where I rolled 1s and 2-1s, I will similarly rant. So maybe I just zip
the tournament reports, Ethan. Rant in the Discord, and then we can talk about it at dinner.
I like this. Maybe that's how I earn this PTI. I shall stop talking.
It really makes a difference.
Okay. Next question here is, what do you consider some core tenets of effective testing? If someone was building a team with some of their friends and wanted to get the most out of their testing sessions, what advice would you give them? This is from Sketchy Man in a White Van.
Yeah, we could do a few episodes on this.
Yeah. I will give one technique it's not like a super hidden thing that I think is very valuable, especially when you're first starting out, and especially if you're trying to build everyone's skill level up. And I think it's what we call hydrating, where you're going to hydra a game. Essentially, you're going to have one person play a deck, and then everyone else play the other deck against that person. It could be 3, 4, 2 people, whatever. You can do it on both sides if you want, but the main idea is to have someone play a deck on a matchup that you want to practice, and then everyone else essentially plays the other deck at the same time. And then you talk through all of your moves. Everyone can give opinions of like, hey, this is what I would do here. You can talk about why. I found that, especially when you're first starting out, especially when you're trying to get everyone's skill level up, that it's very helpful for one, seeing new lines that you might not have considered so that you can start figuring out personally, why did I miss that? Why did I not see that line? 2, finding out the most optimal lines to play in general, because you might not know what they are depending on what the deck is. And 3, it allows everybody kind of to participate at the same time and starts like raising up, that ability. And I mean, that's what we used a lot with Chain, is we just had a bunch of people in a Discord together initially. So someone would be playing like a fatigue deck. There would be, 10 people on the other side all playing Chain, and we would be like, okay, what are we doing? And what the person who's actually controlling it would be like, I'm going to do this. And then people are like, well, what if you did that? And we're like, well, let's think about it. And then we do the math, and then we go through every line. It does take a while, and you guys have to be okay with, it. You're not going to just blow through games. But I feel like that technique, especially at the beginning, especially if you're forming a team, I think that is incredibly helpful. You don't have to do it forever, but I think it's a way to spend the time that I think is valuable for everybody.
I have 2 kind of takes or tips for this. In terms of like principles, like I think the biggest thing is like trust. Make sure like the people you're working with, you can trust their findings and their opinions. Like you don't have to like be like, this person had this findings, I have to like 100% go with that. Like, no, you just need to trust that like what they're saying is valid and maybe like understand their perspective better. But like you need the information to be good, right? That's why you have this testing group. The other thing is slipping my mind. I forgot what I was going to say, so I'm going to move on to my next point, which was to test with purpose. Just make sure anytime you're testing that like you have a question you're trying to answer or a goal you're looking to achieve, and like write it down and write down the answer also. I think it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I've got one that I think really I hadn't had much experience with just because Levia was so esoteric for the longest while. But that's really to have someone who's like pretty much leading the deck building on a specific deck, let's say, be open to fielding even like the most innocent, the most starter questions from anyone else on the team.
Word I forgot.
There we go. Who is trying to grasp that hero similarly, rather than just jumping in and being didactic around like you play it this way, you play it this way, you play it this way. To have someone come in and almost like push your buttons and ask the questions repeatedly, ask over and over, almost at a basic level about all these premises on a deck, can really open up the person who's deck built and maybe been like a little bit too locked into their ways of thinking around a deck to just be challenged a bit. And it leads to this like kind of two-way street where you're learning from someone's kind of beginning the beginning steps that they're on in this hero's journey, along with them, as well as them learning from you, rather than you just kind of shutting them up and telling them how to play it, right? There's a two-way street there, which really helped kind of tune the Levia deck with Pat specifically, anyone else who's picking up the deck. There are a lot of questions as to like, well, hold up, like you're running through this card, but I'm hating this card when I'm playing it. Tell me again why you like it, right? And then realizing after I have to articulate it, okay, hold up. Actually, there's some fault in this logic. I see what Pat's saying. His suggestion makes sense now. Let's try it that way. Back and forth. And it really was unique to have those kinds of conversations. Even if I wasn't that good at it the longest while, 'cause I'm pretty set in my ways with Levia, and yet it came to fruition with this top 4 run recently with a pretty like novel take on Limb for Limb and Shade and all that. And that wouldn't have come without like Yanji and Pat being pushy.
I was going to say, that take makes you think of UNG. Like, if you're closed-minded, you're going to miss out on so many of UNG's, like, absolute genius takes. Because a lot of them are, like, pretty wild and far-fetched. But, like, if you keep an open mind, like, I've gotten so much value out of, like, his opinions and takes. Like the Limb from Limb, like, he thought of that. And when we were testing 5 for, I don't know if it was Nationals or Worlds. I think it was Nationals. We weren't playing E-Strike. And, like, in a bubble, that card's bad in 5, right? Because it's... the mode you're usually doing is below raid or it's eating your snaps to be a good card. But it was like, because of what it does for the deck, it was like exactly the answer to solve the problems we were having. And like, if we didn't have an open mind about that, I would have been like, no, E-Strike's a bad card because that's how I felt at that time. Like, I'm not playing it. But it made a huge impact there.
Perfect. Okay, last question here by Novin. And it is, who are the current meta Blitz heroes after the shakeout of the skirmish season? And I don't know anything about Blitz for the most part, other than Levia is really fun, because that's
so
the only
fun.
thing I've been playing in
It's 20
Blitz.
damage.
But Dan, you have been testing this and will continue to test this, so
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's similar to CC, where it's like tournament playable tier and tournament not playable tier, but there's way more decks in tournament not playable tier rather, than in CC. My current read, and I'm still figuring it out, is like the top decks are like Dash, Briar. You can look at like what performed at skirmish, right? Just look at the LL leaderboard, who earned the most points that hasn't LL'd. Dash, Briar. I think Fatigue Guardians are way better than Aggressive Guardians right now. Emperor is really strong. I think that's kind of the perceived top tier. I think Levia should be in there. It's not performing in that tier. Maybe just a step below is like Levia, Vincent, Prisms. I'm probably forgetting something, but I think the top tier is like Dash, Briar, Fatigue Heroes, and Emperor. It's like a triangle, where Briar is kind of like the new Ira in my mind, where it's like a fair deck who does like mid-range really well with the embodiments, and it has these spike turns that can just present 20. Where like Dash is just like, no, I'm just dealing 20 every turn for the first 3 turns. Like, deal with it.
Yep, I also can't truly comment on Blitz, but I've been playing tons of UPF. Which does, I don't think that translates at all, because I can talk to you all day about Melody. But I don't think you want to play that hero. Let's.
No, probably not. I don't know. For me, it's like it's deal 20 damage every turn dex. It's fatigue dex, and it's the last wizard. Like, it's a degenerate format. All the 20 health formats are so degenerate, and I love it.
Except Clash. Shout out.
Okay, I can buy that. I haven't tried it yet.
We'll do
I
something
probably won't
cool
if it's not
soon.
degenerate.
No, it's by design like the least degenerate way you can play a young hero format.
Nice.
Floop's been hyping it up, and it's gotten a lot of traction on Twitter again, which is cool. But not in official format, so who cares?
Yep. Don't have to care until they make me care, right? That's how I feel. Okay, great. Appreciate everyone staying tuned here with us, but we gotta go. It's time to go. Goodbye, everybody. See ya. Take care.
See ya.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the envelope
7
here, but
envelope
What we could do
and
here is go ahead
darkness.
and play the envelope.
All 3 pitches of Envelope and Darkness.